I was broken when you got me, with holes that would let the light through. Let smoke and sequins and invisible flow. Faith is running to the sound of water.
Okay, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. I'm just going around doing an interview about people's, general opinion on babies and birth, and more specifically, home births. What do you think about? What comes to mind when I say that
Home
term?
births?
Yeah.
I think of a really dark room with people huddled around a bathtub giving birth.
A bathtub?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you think of home birth, you think of water birth.
I guess so.
What do you actually know about water births?
It's supposed to be more natural. A more
Okay.
natural way, because it's coming out into water or something.
Dancing in the footlights.
There were granny midwives who had actually been trained by the health departments and the training was minimal. Most of them, they just had a lot of the knowledge, and a lot of it was that they received a lot of the training from their aunt or grandmother who was a midwife in the community. And so basically what happened was the outlawing of a lot of these granny midwives. Okay, because then if these granny midwives weren't there to then attend these births, and these women then could become economically, feasible for the doctors then to get to attend their births. And then, miss or do something else.
Sheila Simms Watson, a licensed midwife, has been practicing in Miami for 10 years. She says women should be aware of the choices available to them for prenatal care, birth, and postpartum care. At her private practice in Perrine, pregnant women go in for prenatal visits where they sit down for an intimate talk with their midwife, who advises them on diet and lifestyle choices that fit the women individually. Any of the women's questions are answered, and the expectant mothers get their vitals taken just like they would at an OBGYN's office.
How I work? Licensed midwives here in Florida are independent practitioners, so we work in consulting relationships with OBs and any other modality we might want. So if I have a woman with an issue with her back, I'll refer to a chiropractor or an acupuncturist. But I do work in a consulting relationship with OBs. Okay. So if this woman becomes high risk or there's an issue, then I'll refer her out to the OB.
Okay.
That's sort of how we work. Licensed midwives work a little bit. It's nice to think of it. However, within that, there are only a very few. There's a handful of OBs who actually I could refer to, because not all of the OBs in Miami support midwives, midwifery care, or home birth. So I couldn't just refer to any OB that I want to. I've had to create relationships with OBs who, are open-minded and who understand or support midwifery in some way, or support that woman's right to choose where and with whom she wants to birth.
Why is midwifery so, I don't want to say ostracized or looked down on, but by the medical professionals? Why is there that friction between the midwifery aspect of birth and then the medical aspect?
I don't know if I can completely answer that question. I think asking them why they feel that way. I can only
what do you think?
I can only surmise that there is there's a lack of understanding in terms of who midwives are, or a willingness perhaps to understand or to see the value of midwives in midwifery care.
Until the 1930s, midwives were illegal in Florida. The 19th century in America, with its influx of what were deemed undesirable immigrants, saw the deterioration of midwifery's reputation. Midwives were equated to the old country, and modern technology claimed birth and maternity as its own, putting mostly male doctors at the forefront. Midwives were demonized, seen as witches, unsafe and dangerous, and were even thought to offer newborns to the devil. The effects of this defamation resonate in modern obstetricians' reluctance to give midwives credibility, although current studies show little harm in home births.
So they continue to use the word.
Yeah, we use the word client. And, you know, the doctor at this meeting that we were at continued to use the word patient. So it's almost every time you say the word patient, you know, it has a certain, you know, it has effect. When we hear patient, we don't call our clients
They're not
patient.
sick.
They're not sick. Mm-hmm. And so then at that meeting, we finally asked, well, what, you know, what, you know, why is it that when we say clients, because every time we say clients, he would kind of cringe. Why is it when we say, so clients to him equate to a lawsuit. A client sues. They get an attorney and they sue. Mm-hmm. And basically client reminds them of a lawsuit. It means a lawsuit. When they become a client, they're a lawsuit. And for us, when you say patient, you know, you're talking about a sick person, and our women aren't sick people. So just the language there was like, wow.
So the other thing I wanted to ask about is, would you call yourself maybe an advocate for choice or birth or for women maybe?
You can't be a midwife and not be political. There's just, you know, there's just no way. I mean,
How is that?
Why
is that? Why is that?
We are always fighting, you know, in some way, shape, or form, you know, whether or not, you know, because the cesarean rate is outrageous, or, you know, because, you know, the docs say, you know, once a C-section, always a C-section. And we're like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. And so, you know, we do have to mobilize, and we're activists. We have to be, to protect and really guard, you know, the normalcy of a birth. If we don't do it, who else is going to do it? Birth is a very sacred event, you know. I feel like, you know, one of the most important things that between myself and the women or the families that I work with is the relationship that we create, and that relationship is important. And it's because we're about to do something that's very sacred, something very special, and something very intimate. Mm-hmm. So it has to have the spirit in it in some way, shape, or form. You know, the spirit of joy, or, you know, the spirit of, you know, of sadness, whatever. It has to have.
Sheila talks about the experience of natural birth with reverence and makes references to spirituality. As a midwife, she comes from a long line of practitioners of an ancient tradition that made life possible for us today. Her profession has survived persecution, legal battles, and professional oppression. Midwives are the carriers of age-old secrets, delivering babies and bringing power to the women that birthed them. In a world filled with fear and where the remnants of human instinct are hard to find, women who help other women remember how to give life are a necessity.
There's a representation, you know, of who I am and you know, sort of what I do, and a lot of people feel it when they come in, and that's important, and that makes me happy, you know. And so I try in whatever way I can to, you know, have it just reflect, you know, that reverence and that joy and that spirit of life. You know, that's what I try to do. You know, they tried to burn us and outlaw us and whatever, but the midwives are not going away. You're just not going away.
We can't fix what's Let's leave it here.